Audio Jungle.
In the streets, so don't stop now. In the streets, so don't stop now. DJs, but I'm just right now. In the road, there's no to drop. So don't stop now. DJs, but I'm just right now. In the road, there's no time to flop now. In the streets, so don't stop now. DJs, but I'm just right now. In the road, there's no time to flop. So don't stop now. DJs, but I'm just right now. In the road, there's no time to flop now. In the streets, don't stop now. DJs, but I'm just right now. In the road, there's no time to flop now. Don't stop now. DJs, but I'm just right now. In the road, there's no time to flop now.
From the studios of K.L.P. Entertainment, this is SNN Sports.
(2024) NFL MVP predictions, best bets, Josh Allen's time to win, sneaky value on this QB. Plus 2 long-shot picks. Looking at the best bets for the 2024 NFL MVP, not a single person on our staff making picks managed to stumble into Lamar Jackson, with some people even getting adorable and going with Trevor Lawrence and Justin Herbert. Unfortunately for me, not only did I have Josh Allen as my actual pick, but in this space I debated between Lawrence and Lamar before landing on the Jaguars quarterback because Lamar's price got too expensive after he got his contract done. Whoops! Before we dive into the actual picks, allow me my annual rant on the MVP betting space. It is utterly ridiculous that there are 11 players 20-1 or lower in terms of MVP odds. Do you know what has to happen over the full course of a season to win MVP? The only reason the odds are so shrunk is sportsbooks got torched by Patrick Mahomes and Lamar Jackson in their respective second seasons, when they won MVP with off-season odds in the 75-1 range. The departure of Tom Brady, Peyton Manning and etc. doesn't help matters. There's a new crop of quarterbacks and there's a lot more variance here. We know it will be a quarterback. There have been 4 non-QB winners since the year 2000. All 4: Marshall Faulk, 2000, Sean Alexander, 2005, LaDainian Tomlinson, 2006, and Adrian Peterson, 2012, were running backs and won at least over a decade ago. Under the new voting process, top 5 picks from 50 voters versus just a single vote, instituted in 2022, we've seen Justin Jefferson finish 5th and Christian McCaffrey finish 3rd. But neither player received a first-place vote in those years. Don't bet on non-quarterbacks unless you like setting money on fire. We also know the quarterback needs to win the division. The Vikings finished 2nd in the NFC North in 2012, but you have to go back to 2008, when a 12-4 Colts team finished 2nd in the AFC South. The Titans went 13-3, and Peyton Manning's incredible season to find a quarterback who didn't win his division and still won MVP. In other words, you want your MVP bets to be on good teams. It's why Justin Fields' team, which I called a flat-out dumb and completely unbettable last year, made 0 sense. Anyway, let's dive into some best bets for the MVP award, courtesy of DraftKings. In a perfect world, these odds would be longer and we could have a bigger portfolio, but the reality is the winner is more than likely coming from a fairly concentrated group of players. Send questions and complaints to me on Twitter X @WillBrinson and the same handle on Instagram. For the second straight year, Allen will be my official MVP pick for the site when we release them. I also think he's the best bet at the top of the MVP odds to win this award. Mahomes, plus 475, is just too short. CJ Stroud, plus 850, Jordan Love, 14-1, and Jared Goff, 20-1, are all a bit over their skis from an odds standpoint. Lamar, 18-1, is tough because he has to repeat. Aaron Rodgers, 16-1, is 40 and coming off a torn Achilles and a massive favorite for comeback player of the year. Brock Purdy, 18-1, needs the seas to part last year with other QBs in order to win, in my opinion because of the players around him and the perceived system. Joe Burrow, 9-1, Dak Prescott, 18-1, Tua Tagovailoa are all intriguing. However, there are some personnel concerns. New OC, Jamar Chase contract. In Cincy, Burrow has to stay healthy and that's a short number. Dak is good value, but he literally just threw for 4,516 yards, 36 touchdowns, and only 9 interceptions. The Cowboys won the NFC East, and he didn't get a single first-place MVP vote. Tua didn't get a vote last year after being the favorite late in the season and leading the league in passing yards, has a brutal division, and Tyreek Hill is likely to siphon votes away from his QB. Which brings us to Allen. He finished 5th last year and got the only non-Lamar first-place vote. In 2022 he finished 3rd and got one of 2 non-Mahomes first-place votes. Clearly the MVP voters are willing to reward Allen if he plays at a high level. The Bills are the favorite to win the AFC East, albeit tied with the Jets at plus 180. For what it's worth, I love the value on Buffalo there. And then there's Narrative Street. The Bills traded Stephon Diggs this offseason, removing Allen's longtime number 1 wideout and replacing him with a potpourri of Curtis Samuels, Mac Hollins, free agency, Keon Coleman, draft, and Dalton Kincaid, Khalil Shaki, incumbents. Even the sharpest NFL and fantasy analysts aren't 100% sure how this group will be deployed, although I think we have a decent idea given OC Joe Brady's usage of Samuel in Carolina, Coleman's preseason usage, and Pete Prisco's training camp tweets from in Buffalo, which pinpoint Kincaid as a monster this year. Regardless, Allen and the Bills are getting the same treatment as Mahomes and the Chiefs prior to 2022 after they traded Tyreek Hill. Remember, the Chiefs were a laughable plus 160 to win the AFC West that year. Mahomes threw for 5,250 yards and 41 touchdowns despite not having a true top wideout, allegedly, hello Travis Kelce, and ran away with the MVP award. I think Allen is set up to do the same this year and is a worthy bet at his current price. We could go back to the Lawrence well this year and get him at a better price. Frankly, that's probably a pretty decent move. I don't hate the idea of just making your portfolio 3 guys in the 30-1 range given the options. Richardson is a pretty easy click at his number. What we saw in a very small sample size in 2023 was a quarterback who could dominate on the ground and through the air and potentially produce a Cam Newton-style 2015 season or a Lamar Jackson 2019 Konami Code year. Neither Cam nor Lamar cracked for 1,000 passing yards in those respective seasons, even though both were deadly efficient through the air. It was the rushing prowess that distinguished each of them, with Cam scoring double-digit touchdowns and Lamar running for more than 1,200 yards, while also throwing 36 passing touchdowns. Richardson has that kind of upside in Shane Steichen's system. He played so little last year, it's hard to parse out a true 17-game pace for AR, but in not even a full 4 games he threw for 3 touchdowns and ran in another 3. Yes, he was injured on 2 designed runs, and that is deeply concerning for him staying healthy over the full season. But he's certainly built like someone who can sustain that type of physicality. A season of sitting might have benefited him from studying the offense and learning how to avoid contact in certain spots. The Colts have a win total of 8.5, due slightly to the under, and are plus 310 to win the division. The Texans and Jaguars and the Titans to some extent certainly make for a difficult path. But Indy almost made the playoffs with Gardner Minshew last year. I'm confident in this coaching staff and confident AR-15 can get in the mix here, if he's healthy. Stafford ended up getting for MVP votes last season, which was one of my bold predictions before the season, even though he didn't secure a first-place vote. The path here is pretty simple, too. It involves part statistical production and part narrative, with those 2 things presenting themselves in a correlated fashion. Or, if you prefer, Aaron Donald is gone. The lack of Donald has moved the Rams into the plus 330 range to win the NFC West and a 30-1 Super Bowl longshot, even though the team is largely the same from the squad that won the Lombardi just 3 years ago. Because of that narrative, winning the division over the stacked 49ers, something doesn't have to be likely to be plausible and or possible, would push Stafford's case even higher. And because Donald is gone, it stands to reason the Rams will need to win with offense. they dramatically improved the offensive line this offseason and added several skill position pieces. Blake Corum, draft, Colby Parkinson, free agency, and Jordan Whittington, draft, are all sneaky great additions. The Rams will also have a fully healthy Cooper Kupp and Puka Nacua, Karen Williams in their second seasons. This offense could cook. Stafford led the league in interceptions in 2021 with 17, and he'll probably have a decent number again this year because that's who he is. But if he cuts down on them and throws for 800-plus yards and 40-plus touchdowns, as he did that season, and the Rams win the division, he'll be firmly in the mix for the MVP discussion. Okay, again, these are long shots. And we want to find guys who have a reasonable chance at hitting our criteria above. Sam Darnold, 100-1, and now the Vikings' presumptive season-long starter, didn't make the cut because I really don't think the Vikings can win that division. Justin Jefferson should cannibalize his votes and Kevin O'Connell will get most of the credit. I do like Darnold this year though. Geno Smith, on the other hand, is the entrenched starter in Seattle, on a team with a reasonable chance at winning the division, with a new coaching staff that should employ a much more quarterback-friendly offense. Mike McDonald comes to town and brings OC Ryan Grubb with him. Grubb orchestrated the Washington offense last year that turned Michael Penix, Jr., into a top 10 pick and turned 3 wide receivers into very high draft selections in Rome Odunze, also top 10, Jalen Polk, second rounder, and Jalen McMillan, third round. Those 3 match up very nicely with DK Metcalf, Tyler Lockett, and Jackson Smith-Njigba, so it's possible we could end up seeing a similar dynamic trio operate in Seattle. The offensive line is slightly concerning, but if it holds up there's also a good chance Kenneth Walker and Zach Charbonnet could be outstanding at running back. A Noah Fant breakout isn't out of the question, considering how young he's still. In other words, if Seattle surprises and wins the division, it will be because the offense took a massive leap under a new regime. And Geno should get plenty of credit for that development. Levi's is a real long shot, but I think his number is better than most. Perhaps you read the glowing Tuscan castle-filled breakdown of Levi's game from our own Pete Prisco? Levi's also has a new coaching staff and I'm bullish on Brian Callahan, especially since he brought his dad Bill along with him to Tennessee. That development should help the run game in a massive way, as should the addition of Tony Pollard along with Tajee Spears in the backfield. Tennessee's OL isn't in great shape, but picking up J.C. Latham in the draft is massive. The Titans also went out and splurged on Calvin Ridley in free agency. Pairing him with DeAndre Hopkins and then adding Tyler Boyd gives them a really nice, complementary veteran wideout group. Tig Okonkwo and Josh Weil are sneaky tight end options. The AFC South is a tough division, but it's at least gettable. Levi's has the arm, no question. And even though he fell to the second round, he might have the pedigree too. He's been endorsed by Peyton Manning and he was at one point considered a top 5 pick in the draft before his dip. Maybe he takes a massive leap in his second year and leads the Titans to a division title.
Audio Jungle.
Yeah.
Audio Jungle. Audio Jungle.
From the studios of K.L.P. Entertainment, this is SNN Sports. From the studios of K.L.P. Entertainment, this is SNN Sports.
Giants WR defends Daniel Jones after Sauce Gardner's comments, throws shade at 3 former Pro Bowl QBs. Gardner struggled for words when asked about Jones after a joint practice. New York Giants quarterback Daniel Jones hasn't had it easy since signing his 4-year, $160 extension after helping lead his squad to the NFC divisional round in the 2022 playoffs. He was on pace for noticeable regression across the board in 2023 after the best year of his career in 2022. Unfortunately for the Giants' offense, Jones' downswing continued in a joint practice with the New York Jets on Wednesday. That left 2-time first-team All-Pro Jets cornerback Sauce Gardner at a loss for words when asked to describe the Giants' quarterback post-practice, a session the Jets dominated. One of Jones' longtime targets in wide receiver Darius Slayton, also a member of the Giants' 2019 draft class, had a problem with Gardner's comments, specifically when Gardner said he didn't know what to say when trying to describe his quarterback. "I don't know what his intent was," Slayton said on Thursday, per the New York Daily News. "I think I saw a tweet he said maybe he got distracted or something like that, and that's why he paused." But whatever it was, regardless, it's easy to say negative things once there's a negative narrative around a person. But it doesn't always make it well. In this case, it doesn't make it true. Nor does he see him on a day-in, day-out basis. Slayton also blamed being in New York, the largest media market in the United States, in addition to regularly playing primetime football, for the negativity surrounding Jones while taking shots at other young quarterbacks who have received large contracts lately. In Jacksonville Jaguars quarterback Trevor Lawrence, 5 years, $275 million, and Los Angeles Chargers quarterback Justin Herbert, 5 years, $262.5 million. "I think because we play in prime time a lot, we're media covered a lot, we're the Giants," Slayton said. "If we were the Jaguars, like you don't hear anybody say anything about Trevor Lawrence. Or Justin Herbert, for that matter. Matter of fact, if you ask most people about Justin Herbert, they'd probably tell you that he's a top 5 quarterback, but under what logic? Can you really make a case for that he's a top 5 quarterback? You just believe he's, Herbert, capable of that because you see the big arm, basically that he's big, he's tall, he has a rocket of an arm. You assume his processing is good. You assume he's smart and all these things. You don't actually know, though. In Herbert's defense, there are numbers to back up his praise. He has the most completions, 1,613, and passing yards, 17,223, in a player's first 4 seasons in NFL history, while his 114 career passing touchdowns are tied with Patrick Mahomes for the second most in a player's first 4 seasons in NFL history, trailing only Pro Football Hall of Famer Dan Marino, 142. Yet, Slayton believes other young, developing quarterbacks whom have been paid don't face the same scrutiny Jones does. "The thing with the money is, that's what quarterbacks get paid," Slayton said. "You don't see anybody talking about Derek Carr. And I actually think Derek Carr's a good quarterback. But I'm just saying, what did the Saints do? Derek Carr could do something bad 3 weeks in a row and you would hear nothing about it. I don't even know what he did this preseason. I don't know if he's played good or bad this preseason. But DJ is on Good Morning Football. It's just not the same. But it is what it is." Slayton understandably isn't a Saints fan, but if he read even a sampling of their local coverage, he would be aware of the reporting regarding Carr's uneven first season in New Orleans. Sure, he may have a point that Giants players get more attention, but the attention can be positive to the point that it masks some flaws a player may have. Look at Eli Manning. He helped win the Giants 2 Super Bowls, so there isn't much talk about how his other 4 career postseason appearances across 16 NFL seasons all ended with opening round losses. The only way for Slayton and Jones to quiet the noise is simple, to quote the late Raiders owner Al Davis, "Just win, baby."
Audio Jungle.
Yeah.
Audio Jungle. Audio Jungle.
From the studios of K.L.P. Entertainment, this is SNN Sports. From the studios of K.L.P. Entertainment, this is SNN Sports.
Danny Jansen's situation explained, catcher to make MLB history by playing for Red Sox, Blue Jays in same game. Monday's game is the resumption of a June 26 suspended game. Catcher Danny Jansen will make history Monday afternoon at Fenway Park. Jansen, currently a member of the Boston Red Sox, will become the first player ever to play for both teams in the same game when the Red Sox resume their suspended game against the Toronto Blue Jays. Red Sox manager Alex Cora announced it will happen Friday. "Yeah, he's catching," Cora said Friday, via Boston Herald. "Let's make history." Monday's game is the resumption of the June 26 game suspended due to rain in the top of the second inning. Jansen started the game behind the plate for the Blue Jays, his longtime team. He was traded to the Red Sox at the deadline and replaced Reese McGuire on the team's roster. McGuire started the June 26 game behind the plate for the Red Sox. Both rosters have changed since June 26, obviously, and both teams will have to replace every player in the original lineup who is no longer with the team. The Red Sox have to substitute a new catcher in for McGuire, paving the way for Jansen to step into the lineup and play for both Boston and Toronto in the same game. What an oddity, right? Jansen said on Sportsnet's Blair and Barker podcast earlier this week. "What a crazy thing for baseball this game. People have been asking me and coming up to me to talk about it and stuff, so it's going to be a cool one. Suspended games aren't uncommon. There are a handful every season, and oftentimes, players in the original lineups have to be replaced for whatever reason, trade, injury, etc. Never before have things aligned in such a way that one player could play for both teams in the same game, though. At least not until Jansen with this game. Here's what you need to know about the suspended game and Jansen's situation. To be clear, Jansen playing for both the Blue Jays and Red Sox in the same game is within the rules. The Red Sox aren't stepping outside the rules, nor is this some half-baked idea that sounds cool but isn't actually legal. MLB Rule 7.02H covers substitutions for suspended games. Emphasis mine, a suspended game shall be resumed at the exact point of suspension of the original game. The completion of a suspended game is a continuation of the original game. The lineup and batting order of both teams shall be exactly the same as the lineup and batting order at the moment of suspension, subject to the rules governing substitution. Any player may be replaced by a player who had not been in the game prior to the suspension. No player removed before the suspension may be returned to the lineup. A player who was not with the club when the game was suspended may be used as a substitute, even if he has taken the place of a player no longer with the club who would not have been eligible because he had been removed from the lineup before the game was suspended. The rule is clear. Because Jansen was not with the Red Sox when the game was originally suspended on June 26, he is eligible to be substituted into the game when it resumes Monday. It does not matter that he was in the opposing team's lineup. Jansen playing for both the Blue Jays and Red Sox in this game is completely within the rules. It gets weirder. Jansen was in the batter's box taking his first at-bat of the day when the game was suspended. He fouled away a Cutter Crawford first pitch cutter, then the umpires called for the torp, and the game was unable to be resumed that day. Here is the final pitch that was thrown on June 26. When the game resumes Monday, the Blue Jays will have a runner at first base with one out in the top of the second inning, and the batter who replaces Jansen in Toronto's lineup will inherit his 0-1 count. As is always the case in these situations, the Blue Jays and Red Sox will be allowed to use their entire current roster when the suspended game resumes Monday. Limiting each team to the players they had on the roster the day the game was suspended would be a logistical nightmare, especially with a 2-month layoff. Jansen isn't the only player Toronto has to replace. The Blue Jays will have to substitute more than half their starting lineup come Monday. They traded away several veterans at the July 30th deadline, and 4 players from their original lineup are no longer in the organization. Add in an injury, and 5 players from that June 26th lineup will be unavailable Monday. Either Alejandro Kirk or Brian Servan will replace Jansen behind the plate. Dalton Varsho will presumably take over in center field, and deadline pickup Joey Loperfido could slot in at DH. Shortstop and third base figures to be some combination of Addison Barger, Ernie Clement, and Leo Jimenez. Point is, Jansen isn't the only player the Blue Jays have to replace. He's one of many. Maguire was dropped to clear a roster spot for Jansen after the trade deadline outright means Maguire was removed from the 40-man roster, and, really, that is the reason Jansen playing for both teams in one game is possible. If Connor Wong, Boston's primary catcher, was in the original lineup, then he likely would have stayed in when the game resumes Monday. There would be no need to make a change behind the plate. But since Maguire started the original game and is no longer with the big league team, the Red Sox do have to make a change behind the plate. They could have slotted in Wong and not allowed Jansen to make history, but where's the fun in that? Has anything like this ever happened before? Again, no player has ever played for both teams in one game, though suspended games have led to plenty of quirkiness over the years. MLB Rule 9.23d says any and all stats from a suspended game count on the original date. So, for example, if Devers hits a home run Monday, it will go into the record book as being hit on June 26th. This has led to some funny situations over the years. Most notably, Juan Soto, then with the Washington Nationals, hit a home run against the New York Yankees on June 18, 2018. That was the completion of a game that was suspended on May 15th. The home run went into the record books as being hit on May 15th, except Soto was in the minors at the time. He didn't make his MLB debut until May 20th. The June 18th homer is, officially, his first MLB home run, even though it was the really 6th home run of his career. Got all that? Several players have played for 2 teams in one day without needing a suspended game, though never for both teams in one game. On May 30, 1922, the Chicago Cubs and St. Louis Cardinals swapped outfielders Max Flack and Cliff Heathcote between games of a doubleheader. Flack played the first game for the Cubs and then the second game against the Cubs as a member of the Cardinals. Heathcote did the opposite. He started the first game for the Cardinals and the second game for the Cubs. Joel Youngblood is the only player in MLB history to get a hit for 2 teams on the same day. On August 4, 1982, Youngblood started an afternoon game for the New York Mets at Wrigley Field and got a hit in the 3rd inning against Hall of Famer Fergie Jenkins. An inning later he was removed from the game because he had been traded to the Montreal Expos. Youngblood left the stadium, met the Expos in Philadelphia, then entered that night's game as a pinch hitter and singled against Hall of Famer Steve Carlton. 2 hits against 2 Hall of Famers in 2 different cities in one day. Jansen was in the middle of his first at-bat when the June 26th game was suspended and, because he'll exit the game with an 0-1 count, MLB Rule 9.15b says the result of the at-bat will be credited to the new hitter regardless of outcome. Had Jansen exited with a 2-strike count, a strikeout by the new hitter would have been charged to Jansen. He doesn't have to worry about that though. Regardless of the official scoring, Jansen was in the lineup and in the game for Toronto on June 26th, and he will enter the same game for the Red Sox on August 26th. History is afoot.
Audio Jungle.
Yeah.
Audio Jungle. Audio Jungle.
From the studios of K.L.P. Entertainment, this is SNN Sports.
Audio Jungle.
'24 FedEx Cup standings, schedule, PGA Tour Leaderboard, Prize Money, Purse for FedEx Cup Playoffs, your one-stop shop for everything you need to know throughout the 2024 FedEx Cup Playoffs. Following an exciting regular season, the PGA Tour hosts a three-tournament postseason, the 2024 FedEx Cup Playoffs, which concludes with a massive tour championship where the majority of the grand total $100 million purse is dished out to golfers. In fact, the $25 million top prize is tied for the largest payout on the PGA Tour this season with the Players' Championship. Only 70 golfers advanced to the first round of the playoffs, the FedEx St. Jude Championship, same as last season. With 20 of those players now eliminated following the first event of the playoffs at TPC Southwind in Memphis, some of the biggest names in golf will no longer have a chance to compete for the top prize. There's plenty of star power in the field, though, with Scottie Scheffler and Xander Schauffele atop the standings and other significant players like Rory McIlroy, Hideki Matsuyama, Collin Morikawa and Wyndham Clark in contention. For Scheffler, a FedEx Cup win would be his first, but it would also serve as a feather in his cap on the back of a stellar season that already includes 6 PGA Tour victories and an Olympic gold medal. The same goes for Schauffele, a two-time major championship winner this season. For everyone involved, there will be a ton of money and plenty of accolades at stake over the next 3 weeks. Let's take a closer look at what to expect from this year's festivities. The top 70 in the FedEx Cup standings, via points accumulated throughout the year, played in the St. Jude Championship this week. All 3 events are 72-hole, stroke play tournaments, though the fields gradually get smaller as the playoffs roll on. The points change, too, as everything is quadrupled. During regular season events, most winners receive 500 FedEx Cup points for finishing first at tournaments. In a handful of events, 600 points went to first place. The winners of the first 2 FedEx Cup Playoffs events will instead receive 2,000 points each. The point boost goes for every slot on the leaderboard. 300 for second becomes 1,200 and so on. Only 7 golfers surpassed the 2,000 point total during the entire regular season: Scheffler, Schauffele, McIlroy, Collin Morikawa, Wyndham Clark, Ludwig Aberg and Sahith Theegala. Scheffler opened with nearly a 3,500 point lead on third-place McIlroy, while Schauffele himself was 1,500 points up on the rest of the field. Still, the FedEx Cup standings can shift quite a bit, especially for the winners of the first 2 events over the next couple weeks. Winners are disproportionately rewarded and deservedly so given this is the postseason. This provides the opportunity for golfers to go on a hot streak and rocket up the FedEx Cup standings. Regardless of what else happens, the first 2 playoff winners will be in great spots entering the finale, the Tour Championship at East Lake. Similar to other sports, now that the postseason has begun, almost anything can happen. The top 50 in the FedEx Cup standings after the St. Jude Championship move on to the BMW Championship. Then the top 30 after that move on to the Tour Championship. Scheffler and Schauffele are having extraordinary seasons. They rank number 1 and number 3 on the all-time single-season money list at $29.1 million and $17.6 million, respectively, following the first playoff event. Those numbers will only go up from there as the second playoff event, the BMW Championship, has a similar $20 million purse to the FedEx St. Jude Championship. Even though anything can happen over the next 2 weeks, players are still rewarded for what they accomplished in the regular season. The lead Scheffler, nearly 3,000 points over third, and Schauffele, 1,100 points over third, have built will be difficult to chip away if those 2 continue performing well. For example, Schauffele is the only player who can mathematically catch Scheffler next week at the BMW Championship, and it will take a win to do it. Matsuyama is the only player who can catch Schauffele for second. Scheffler and Schauffele are in a great spot to jump into the top 2 spots at the Tour Championship where they would start at 10 under and 8 under, respectively. That gives them a huge head start on winning the first FedEx Cup of their careers. For either, it would be emblematic of the quality of golf they have played for the last 7 months as the 2024 PGA Tour season winds down. Heading into the Tour Championship inside the top 5 or top 10 in the FedEx Cup standings is important because of how scoring is dispersed. Whoever is first in the FedEx Cup standings after the BMW Championship starts the Tour Championship at 10 under, and the event is played under normal scoring conditions from there. Second starts at 8 under and so on, see full numbers below. With so much money at stake, again, $25 million for first place, those margins become more meaningful than even a normal week. The eventual winners of the 4 FedEx Cups played under this format have all started in the top 7 at the Tour Championship. The figures are startling for the finale. The winner of the Tour Championship receives $18 million. If you just make into the final FedEx Cup playoff event, you're guaranteed $500,000. Here's a look at what the lucrative top 10 will look like at the Tour Championship. Last year, Victor Hovland won the BMW Championship and then took the Tour Championship and FedEx Cup over Schoffel. Both players shot the same 19 under score at East Lake to end the year, but Hovland started the tournament at 8 under while Schoffel only started it at 3 under, so Hovland easily won by 5 and took home the first prize of what was then $18 million.
From the studios of K.L.P Entertainment, this is SNN Sports.